Hi, Domenica here from easysewingforbeginners.com. In this tutorial today, I'll be showing you how to make scrunchies. Now, scrunchies are a great project for beginning sewers. They're quick and easy to make, and you can make them at a very low cost as well. Okay, so let's check out what we'll need for this project. Okay, so to get started, you will need some fabric. I like to cut mine 22 inches by 4 inches or 56 centimeters by 10 centimeters. All these fabrics here I actually purchased from our local op shop or thrift shop or whatever you call it. You can also use old clothing as well if you like. You need elastic. Now I use 1/4 inch elastic and I cut it 7 inches long or 18 centimeters long. And if you decide to tie the ends together, which I'll show you later, you'll need to cut it 9 inches long. You also need some safety pins, some a hand sewing needle, some thread, pins, marker, scissors or ruler and rotary cutter and cutting mat. And you'll also need your sewing machine. Okay, for the first step you'll need one of your strips of fabric. This one's cut 22 inches by 4 inches and you'll need some pins. You'll need to fold your strip of fabric long ways with the right side of your fabric together and then just use a few of those pins just to hold those two sides together. Once you've made a few of these scrunchies, you'll find that you probably won't need to use the pins. But for now, they'll be a good helping hand. Okay, so next we're going to take this over to the sewing machine and sew these two edges together to form a tube. Okay, so now we're going to sew these edges together and I'm using about a 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Don't forget to reverse stitch at the beginning. And don't forget to reverse stitch at the end to secure your stitching. Okay, for this next step you'll need your scissors and one of your safety pins. So just snip these thread tails off. Okay, and then grab your safety pin and we're going to use this to turn the tube right side out. So I like to attach the safety pin to the seam of the tube and in that way you won't accidentally rip the edge of your fabric. Poke the safety pin inside the tube and scrunch the fabric down over that safety pin, and then as you do that gradually pull it over, and this is a nice quick way to turn your tube right side out. Okay, so for the next step you'll need your elastic. So if you're going to be tying your ends together, I'd recommend about 9 inches long. If you're going to be sewing the ends together, probably about 7 inches long, and you'll need a couple of safety pins as well. Okay, so first off we're going to attach one of the ends of the elastic to the end of the tube, and then going to use the other safety pin to attach to the other end of the elastic, and we're going to thread this safety pin and elastic all the way through the tube of fabric. Now I like to attach the elastic onto the other end, and that saves you from accidentally losing your end in your tube of fabric. Okay, so now we have both ends of our elastic. Take that safety pin off. So at this stage there's two ways to finish it, or to secure the elastic. So you can either tie the ends together like this, and then snip that excess elastic off, and then you can tuck it into your tube. And I'll show you the other way that you can attach the elastic. The next option to secure your elastic together is to overlap it and use a hand needle and thread to secure your elastic together. So just do this 10 or 12 times and secure your thread. Okay, and then there's one more option with the sewing machine, which I'll show you now. Okay, this last option for securing the elastic together uses the sewing machine. I recommend changing it to a zigzag stitch, and if you have the choice, reduce your zigzag stitch length to as short as possible. I have overlapped the elastic and I've just placed a couple of pins on either side just to hold that elastic in place while it's under the presser foot. So you need to slide the elastic under the presser foot and under the needle, and you'd pretty much sew just forwards and backwards a few times with that zigzag stitch. Now, if you're fairly new to sewing, I'd recommend perhaps one of the other options until you're a bit more comfortable with your sewing machine. Okay, but that is an option there to secure the elastic together. Once you've secured your elastic, you can remove the pins and then snip off any excess elastic or thread that's hanging around. There are two options for closing up your fabric opening now. So you could layer one edge over the other and then stitch over that with your sewing machine. Now that does the job, but then you have exposed stitching and it doesn't give it a very nice finish. The other option is the one I prefer, and it does involve a little bit of hand stitching, but they are some essential hand sewing skills, so you will use these a lot once you know them. So I've just threaded my needle up with a contrasting thread so you can see the thread easily, and I've doubled over my thread, and I'm just going to put a knot in the end. Now this is called a quilter's knot, gives you a nice big knot at the end. If you want to know how to do that, be sure to check out my video where I show you step by step how to do that. The next thing you'd need to do is put one edge of the loop over the other side. So there's one inside the other. And you're then going to fold that raw edge over or inside itself by about 1/8 of an inch. You don't need a huge amount. Okay, once you've done that, just secure it with a pin just to hold it while you're sewing. Okay, so we're going to use a hand stitch called an invisible stitch or ladder stitch, and this will give you a stitchless finish for your scrunchie. Okay, so I like to start by putting the thread up through one of the seams of the loop, and then you can hide that little tail away in there. And then we're going to do our invisible stitch. So you basically go through a bit of fabric on one side there, and then you'd grab a bit of fabric from that other edge of the loop, and I've got the folded over edge at the top. Okay, now I do have a video of this showing you step by step how to do it if you want to see a clear step-by-step demonstration. But once you know this stitch, you will use it for all sorts of things. Like if you have a hole in a teddy bear, you can use this invisible stitch. You've got a hole in a piece of clothing and you can't get to the other side of the clothing, then you can use this invisible stitch. So it's a very useful stitch to know how to do. So as you can see, that ladder stitch gives you a nice stitchless finish for your scrunchie. Once you know how to make a scrunchie, you can make up a whole heap of them. You can make scrunchies for school, you can make satin scrunchies, you can make Christmas scrunchies, you can make leopard print scrunchies, you can make little mini scrunchies as well. They are so cute. If you're interested in making these Santa scrunchies or Christmas scrunchies, then check out the description box below and I'll link to the tutorial on my website for those. Oh, and I also forgot to mention that I made my dog a collar scrunchie as well for Christmas. I don't know if that's a little bit crazy, but I thought he might like one. Okay, so now you know how to make a scrunchie. I hope you have the confidence now to go out and make a whole heap, try different fabrics, different dimensions, and see what you prefer. If you found this tutorial useful, hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe to keep up with all my upcoming projects and tutorials. I'll see you next time. Bye!